Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited for today's interview. That my guest, Marq Neasman Sr., is the founder of the Academy of Kings. He's an amazing man, an amazing individual with an amazing story that will inspire you. I don't even want to say what we're going to talk about because it's going to be so amazing. So, Mark, I want you to just come in, let the audience know where did you get started, what is the Academy of Kings, and what do people need to know about what you're doing?
Hey, man, thanks so much, Frank, for bringing me in on the show. And first, I want to say thank you to your audience and to your listeners for lending an ear and all the powerful things that you're doing right now to serve this community. So really grateful to be here. But they always say start with your why. People tend to listen in more when they know your heart as opposed to the thing you do. And so if it's okay, I'd like to start with that. And my mission is to help men maximize their potential and master success. And when I say men, I'm saying, young men and adult men. But and we've been at this work now for about a decade in time. And I put together a few different products to help serve young men and and adult men. But one in specific is the Academy of Kings Preparatory School located here in Orlando, Florida, serving grades 6 through 12. And we have a consulting firm for entrepreneurs, business leaders, owners, entrepreneurs, which is AOK High Performance. And those are the two main entities that we're functioning in right now, burning the candle on both ends of the stick, if you would, serving adult males and youth. I hope I answered your question.
No, that was definitely, I mean, that was a great answer. I think when you talk about men in leadership, obviously you have maybe I would say a lack of leadership in the country at this time. Where do you think what you're doing long term, how do you think that's going to affect, say, the future of what leadership looks like? Like, what is your vision when you see the lack of leadership now? What do you feel like the Academy of Kings and AOK High Performance, what do you think they're going to produce as far as fruit and leadership?
Yeah, so I keep it simple. We breed kings. that's that's my saying. I'm sipping on my cup of tea right now, and that's what it says on it. And that is, that's an all-encompassing answer for that question. When I say king, please don't, those of you listening, don't misinterpret. A king for me is an individual that has dedicated his life to serving those that give him the privilege of leadership. So to answer your question, I think that to view it in the term of now in today's leaders, I think that for an eternal mind, for a legacy mind, that's a short-term fix. Whereas I've set my mind and my career and my life and my being, my purpose on affecting legacies and lineages to come. And the best way that I know to do that is through education. I believe that education by far is the pinnacle resource to changing generations and to changing human habit, which at the helm of why we do anything is habit. It's thought processes that have been ingrained over the course of time, whatever that time limit be. You hear people say all kinds of time frames on creating a habit, but it's been created and it has to be unlearned. When you talk about the leadership of today, a large portion of that is multifaceted. There is no short answer to that question, but in many cases, it always boils back to at some point someone getting selfish. And you can look at you don't let's not make this complex. Let's keep it really simple with that question. View it like a marriage. Inside of a household, you have a husband and wife, and the only time that there will be discontent is when someone gets selfish. And if you view leadership from the same place, remember, leadership is ultimately denying oneself for the good of everyone else, fighting to, it is like I said, sacrificing my life for the privilege of serving other people. And so if that is the truth, if that is truth, if what I said is truth, then the only way that I could ever steer wrong as a leader, not to say I won't make mistakes, but to completely steer wrong as a leader, is if I begin to not think about the people. That's the only way I could ever steer wrong. And I believe that the the discontent that we may see in today's leadership is heavily predicated on the fact that people, some way, shape, or form, grew selfish.
Wow, that's a really powerful answer. This the selfishness and being the selflessness that's required in leadership, something that's often overlooked. I think people just want the position, but you're actually putting some real traits out there that go with it. One of the things I want to ask you is obviously you talked about men and developing young men. Have you ever gotten any pushback from women that say, "Hey, so what about women? Can't women lead?" Like, what would you say to somebody who says, "Hey, that's great what you're doing for men. What about the young ladies and women who could be leaders?" What would you say to that?
Absolutely. And yeah, to answer that question, I've gotten all kinds of feedback. Even now today, I get called a feminist. I get called, I'm sorry, not a feminist. I get called a you think I joined the He-Man Woman Haters Club, but from feminists and from people who advocate for women. And it's ironic because if a person knew who I was and where I came from, and I'm sure we'll dive into that a little bit, but if they knew who I was and where I came from, they would know that that's not any of who I am. Just because I lead a male organization doesn't mean that I am in any way, anti-female or against females. In fact, if a person took the time to look into what it is that we're doing, the women actually love it. There's not too many moms or wives that I speak to that don't walk away inspired or encouraged because of the work that it is that we're doing. And so and I do get that question that you asked, well, what about the women? And that usually comes from mothers and wives who have been impressed by what I do. But and in that I tell them, quite frankly, and with a smile on my face, that I am serving them. I'm serving them by serving their future husband, or by serving the man that's currently in their life, or by serving their father. And that is how I'm just doing my part. I'm doing what I'm good at, and what I'm good at is serving men.
Man, that was a great answer. That was good. So you mentioned where you started. Let's go there. Where you said if people knew your story and why you started where you were, they wouldn't even ask that question. Just tell the listeners a little bit about your upbringing and some of your ideals that you still carry with you today as you operate the Academy of Kings.
Absolutely, yeah. I give a lot of honor to my mother, actually, for what the Academy of Kings has become. And those of you who may look it up, we go by the title AOK. So we have three different entities: AOK Male Leadership Group, AOK Research Group, um, AOK High Performance. The only entity you'll find with Academy of Kings is actually the school, and we did that intentionally. Um, but but my mother is a great influence in what it is that I now do today. So my mother actually was impregnated with me at 17 years old, and she was raised by her grandparents, because her mother was in an abusive relationship. My grandmother actually died with a bullet in her nose, and her grandfather, my grandfather that recently just passed, at that time in his life, he was actually a pimp, a true pimp, and a street hustler. So I shared that because you have to get perspective on where a person has come from. Now, you take a 17-year-old girl who's pregnant by my father, who at the time was selling drugs too. So just a huge pot of confusion and waywardness, but essentially my mother was kicked out of the home. So she had me at 18 on her own. And that's, for those of you who need context, that's a nosedive into poverty. And my mother went on to have five other children before the age of 23. So that put me, the oldest child of five kids, um, you know, I don't think I need to explain much more from that. I think our listeners kind of catch the drift. But that automatically made me started my journey as a leader. From a very very early age, and one without a father figure in the home. So my passion for serving fathers comes directly from my experience. And when I say fathers, I'm talking about husbands. I'm talking about men in general. I say fathers because that is the leader of the home, or a leader in the home. And and so when you talk about my passion, it came from what I grew up witnessing. And my I would refer to my experience as an extremity. I know that studies show it, 50% of households do not have a father in them. And this is across all demographics. On top of that, the 50% that do have fathers, only 25% of them actually have the biological father there. So when you view it from that perspective, there is a huge need for men to understand who they are. They don't fully grasp it. There is no way you could convince me they do. Because if a man really knew who he was, he would not walk out on the one sure shot he has at legacy. He has at living on. He has at extending his roots and his lineage beyond now and today. There's no way he would give that up if he really knew who he was. And aside from that, growing up and having to be the male in my home, having to be that guy from the age of 9, I get sometimes I get picked at by people who are older than me. They say, you're a young guy. What do like, what did you do? Read this in a book? And it's like, no, no, I didn't. I just got it in reverse. It's like, I can't remember the name of that movie, the Benjamin movie, where the young man, as he gets older, he shrinks into a baby. Benjamin something. But that guy, I'm like that guy concerning leadership.
Benjamin Button was the book.
Benjamin Button.
Yep.
There it is. I'm like, that happened to me just in reverse regarding leadership. To skill sets that people didn't start developing until their 20s. I started developing when I was 8 and 9 years old. That's all that happened, and I had to make a sacrifice for that. I had to forego childhood. Is in the mental health industry is what's called parentification, and that happens when a young person, a child feels that they have to take on an adult role or a parent role. And that's who I was. That's what I felt. And I'm grateful now, because I turned what one may view as as a weakness, or as a catastrophe, or whatever word you may a trauma even. I took it and I turned it into, now it's a diamond. And it's serving me well and allowing me to have impact on thousands of people right now. So I'm really grateful for that.
Wow, that was something, and it's funny because before we even recorded, I said, first time, and we met through a mutual friend, good man, CJ, and the first time I heard you, I think it was on a prayer call we did, and I was like, God, this guy must be older than me, just the way he's speaking, and it wasn't, and so I was just like, this guy has wisdom, and obviously as we got to know each other, I was like, wow, for where you are, I think that it's an amazing testament to your character and what God has done through you, because as I said, it's like there's wisdom that people hope to gain, like you said, in their 30s, but you have already amassed that well before that, and certainly are still growing. One of the things I want to talk about with that wisdom is there's something you put together called the 4 stages of manhood. Can you tell listeners about that? Why that's valuable? How that can help men who might be, say, struggling or not knowing? You mentioned just a few minutes ago that men don't know who they are. What would that work do for them? The 4 stages of manhood. How can that help get a man on track who might be struggling right now?
Yeah, it's definitely for that guy, but men that are listening, this is, if I may, we tend to struggle with admitting weakness. If we can be vulnerable. We tend to struggle with being weak. We tend to struggle with not knowing, and further, telling other people that we don't know. It's really in confidence that you see confident people do that more than anyone else. But when and I'm only sharing that because I don't want my lens of men to be conscrewed. I don't want my lens of men to come across that I don't think that they are capable, or I don't think that they are uh, worthy. In fact, I call men king. Most men that I come in touch with, I call them king. And I get a 50-50 response. Some people push back from it. Some people embrace it. But it's more times than not, that's their test, not mine. And I call you king because I seek to empower you. I seek to help you to view yourself in your highest form. I'm not sitting you on a throne. I'm not at all putting you at the top of a mountain. In fact, it's inverted. And you're actually at the bottom of that mountain, and that mountain is upside down, and you have to hold it all together. It's a place of servant leadership. It's a man dedicating his life to serve those that give him the privilege of leadership. And more than it's about a man struggling, it's about a man maximizing his potential and mastering success. We have two ways we can approach this. You have therapists and counselors, and you have coaches and speakers, motivational coaches and motivational speakers. A motivational coach and a motivational speaker can't speak to a person in a depression. A person in a depression needs someone to go into that place with them, understand them, and help pull them along just enough to get them to a neutral state. And then from that neutral state, they need someone to coach them and inspire them to grow on and be their best self. And so more than I want a person to view this book as as a way to pull you out of a struggling state or a depressed state, not to say that it can't, but important than that, I really care to see you be productive, be progressive, and maximizing your potential and mastering success. And that is what the 4 stages of manhood does. It gives you a 10,000-foot view of what stages a man should be hitting, no matter his age. And I mean literally from 0 to 125. It doesn't matter where you are, especially, and this isn't just for men. A mother, a grandmother, a aunt, a wife could pick up this book and gain massive insight from it. And it's not a long read. I want to say I don't even know the amount of pages on my own book, but it's it's probably like just over 100 pages. It's not very long read at all, but it is dense with insight to the psychology and the sociology that help men to thrive, help males to thrive. I don't even like using the word man, and when you read the book, you'll know why. But to help people get a clearer insight on the 4 stages of manhood, the first stage is boy. And as a boy, you are in a state of selfishness and dependency. The second state is man. And as a man, you become independent, but you are still selfish in your nature. And to help people contextualize this, I teach that you become a man at the age of 12. That's when the prefrontal cortex expands. And that is when you can make decisions for yourself. The moment that a young man is able to make decisions for himself, mothers, listen, the moment that your young boy is able to make a decision for himself, he is no longer your baby. He is not your baby. And if you don't give him room and space to make that transition, he then graduates to being a young adult, right? 18, 19, a young adult, but still living in a state, in a mindset of a boy. And that's a dangerous place to be, because he's being given access according to our economy, according to the laws that govern this nation. He's being given access, but he has not developed the responsibility. That's a dangerous place to be. And if you ask him if he's a man, he's going to tell you he's a man, but he has not taken on the responsibilities. And that's why we say that a person being in just the state of a man, he is simply independent, but he is still selfish in his nature. And that's what leads to the third stage, which is gentleman. And at the stage of gentleman, love is introduced. That's the key element that's introduced there. And he begins to make a transition. He's still independent, okay? Meaning he can only take care of himself. He can't buy you a house, but he can open the door for you. He can't buy your grocery, but he can take them from the car for you. He is able to take care of himself, but he understands now that he is just a microcosm in the flow of a much greater purpose, a much greater economy, his eyes begin to be open to the point that he has to become a servant and add value. This is the birthing of servant leadership. And then you have the fourth stage now, and this happens inevitably. If you have you've never seen a person turn you down for serving you. And so what ends up happening is, if a person begins to serve and add value to people, he becomes an authority. He becomes a household name. It just happens automatically. It's nothing you have to fight or try to make happen. If you extend your hand enough times to serve people, you will become the go-to individual. And in that, what ends up happening is that person has to go from being in a state of independence to being in a state of interdependence, because they are being pulled on so much by different people that they now need resources of their own to be able to serve the demand. So they elevate from being independent to being interdependent, which is the highest. Most people just want to be independent, but if you talk to a true king, you'll know, because he speaks of interdependence. He speaks of not competing, but completing. He speaks a language that is empowering to other people. And that king then becomes, that king is now, not only is he interdependent, but he has developed so much as an individual in servanthood that he now surmounts he now surmounts the responsibility of everyone else around him. But that's really what allows him to have what we call impact, high impact. And high impact is what leads to influence. And influence is what will inevitably dictate the legacy of a man's life.
Man, that was, whew,
That was,
that was great. I mean, I think so many people don't even know what that means. I think the independent, interdependent is something that, like I said, I want to encourage listeners to go back. Like I say, you listen to Christ Over Crypto. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Podcasts. If you can't find us, you're not looking hard enough. Here with Marq Neasman, Senior, founder of the Academy of Kings. Just an amazing revelatory interview. Just a lot of things that, even I'm picking up, obviously. I've seen some of your material and stuff like that, but just hearing somebody, it's one thing to read somebody wrote and then talk to them. You always get more from that. So I'm honored to be here. One question I do have for you is, obviously you have these, Academy of Kings and things like that. And I know you're in Florida. How is this pandemic impacting you? Obviously, this is a thing that you could not have foreseen, and nobody could fault you for not foreseeing it. How has this affected your operations, and is there a plan for you moving forward, pandemic or not? How, just kind of give us an update on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, everyone has been affected. I'm an entrepreneur. And so, everyone has been affected regarding their business, but it's like anything else, if you ask a true leader what he's searching for in regard to adding value, it's really simple. He's going to tell you problems. So to answer your question, how the pandemic is affecting me, the pandemic is giving me the pandemic is stretching me. It's stretching me to be able to develop the capacity to handle and solve more problems. The more problems I solve, the more value I add. And as long as I'm adding value, everything else pretty much takes care of itself. Um, across the board, honestly. And that principle that I gave is served me well long before now. But I think that we all reach times when we have to, when we have to be tested, and this is definitely that time. I feel great about what it is that we're doing as an organization, even down to I have to give kudos to my wife for this because she came up with the idea. But we have a clothing line that we have began marketing for via social media, and our product line is obviously geared toward men. It's higher end wallets and duffel bags and travel bags and things that just essentials for men, right? But she said, well, hey, I had an idea to start making masks. Could we make masks and put the branding, put the King Collection branding on it? And I said, absolutely. And so again, finding a way to add value in the midst of a problem or in the midst of an issue. And it really, I give credit to my wife because honestly, another trait of a king is not in so much in him thriving, it's in those around him thriving. And more than I get exhilarated, I am success. So being successful is a natural byproduct of who I have no choice but to produce success. But when I see that the people are connected to me are producing success, oh man, now I know expansion is taking place. Now I know that what I am teaching is true. One time a mistake, two times a habit. One time a mistake, one time, might call it luck, but two times, three times, no, that's production. That's solid. And so to see my wife coming into that, big shout out to my wife. Super grateful. And that's another thing. That's another reason that back to the statement about feminist groups that sometimes give me some pressure, man. I know where my help comes from. I know that my wife has an amazing influence on everything that I do, and I would never withhold that glory from her. My wife is a huge reason for all that I am and all that I will be. So shout out to all the feminists out there, but I love you too. I am a feminist. But yeah, I know I kind of rambled a little bit, but absolutely, just finding ways to be a problem solver in the midst of a problem.
That's a great answer. I'm definitely taking notes. I'm gonna get you out of here. I got a couple more things to ask you. I want to know. So right now, there's a lot obviously going on, as you said. Just what are you currently working on? I know I don't want to. Obviously, I don't want you to share any trade secrets or anything like that. But like, what do you? Obviously, I know somebody like you doesn't think about, like you mentioned. You don't. I mentioned leadership question at the beginning. You're like, I'm not looking short term, looking long term. So what's the next decade look like for AOK? In academy, men's high performance, and as well as the school, all the different facets you're in. Like, what does that look like? What are your plans, as much as you can reveal them?
Yeah, no worries. So our main thing right now is collecting data. So we have a team of investors that have poured into us, studying the buyer habits of the male demographic, specifically business owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs. Those are the individuals that have shown to amass the wealth in this nation. And so we really focus on what their buyer habits are, because we understand that that will have a tremendous impact on the economy and on everyone else, no matter whether it's a depression or not, whether you're in a bull market or a bear market, it doesn't matter. So that is one of the over the next decade, that's something that we are really excited about, looking forward to. Also, it is the mass distribution of AOK Preparatory in 10 years. It is my declaration, and mark this day and this time, but it is my declaration that within 10 years, we will have over 25 schools flooding the southeastern region of the United States. And at that point, we will also be establishing AOK University or AOK College. We haven't decided, which way we're going to go. But for every region of the United States that we cover, which will be the entire United States and abroad, but for every region that we cover of the United States, we plant a college, a university. So much more to come regarding research and regarding the education factor. And something that I'm really excited about is our consulting firm and the work that we're doing right now with entrepreneurs and business leaders, and impacting the workplace. And that's I mean, all of this is ministry in my eyes. All of this is me being able to take my purpose and incorporate my passion and help people and generate profit off of it, is what I call the 4 Ps. But the consulting firm is something that I really I enjoy. Like the word says, when iron sharpens iron. And in many cases, you find that with like-minded people, and me being a high-performing leader, me being an entrepreneur, me being a man's man, me being, a husband, me being a father, I love being around other men that can relate. And I think we all agree to that perspective. So I really look forward to our masterminds, to our coaching programs. We have the King's Code, which is doing phenomenal right now. We have the Round Table, which is our mastermind program for entrepreneurs. And so I'm just looking forward to seeing growth in all of those aspects. And yeah, man, I mean, 10 years from now, I'm excited, man. That is something to really look forward to.
So, man, that's, like I said, definitely that's great information. So that's, I mean, there's so much that you just gave out. Just let the listeners know how they can connect with you and just find out more about you. Your website, anywhere they can get your books. Just share anything that you'd like to let them know how to connect with you.
Absolutely. So I think that the best way to get in contact with me is to, it depends on what you're doing and what you're into, right? But obviously, if you're just trying to grow as a man, then go ahead and check out the Manhood book. And it's manhoodbook.com. Really, really simple. Manhoodbook.com. You type that in and you'll be able to get access to the book. You can purchase it. It's $14.97. And all proceeds go to our foundation, which helps to serve some of the young men that may need monetary assistance in being able to afford our school. If you are in the Orlando area, please look up Academy of Kings Preparatory School. And you have a young man, please look up Academy of Kings Preparatory School, aokprep.com. Or if you just want to research and you want to inquire, feel free to do so as well. If you are an entrepreneur, business leader, or owner, definitely reach out. Definitely reach out to me. I'm definitely on all social media platforms, but I would love to get you plugged into our community, and that is the High Performing Male Leaders Association. And we have a buzzing group on Facebook, actually, where I'm very involved, and you can connect with me there. High Performing Male Leaders Association is again the name. Other than that, Twitter is my primary source, and my Twitter link is really simple. It's at Marq Neasman, and it's Marq with a Q, Marq Neasman, Neasman. So at Marq Neasman, you can find me there, and I engage and conversate a lot there. Beyond that, probably won't get me.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, like I said, I just want to thank you again for being on, part of the show and just sharing so much wisdom. And like I said, this is something that I would encourage all listeners to go back and listen to. And you may have to just listen into it in different bites just to absorb it all. But again, just want to thank you, man, for coming on. I appreciate the knowledge you share with me, not just on the show, but just off the show and things you've helped me sharpen. Like you said, iron sharpens iron. You definitely sharpened me in that regard. So I thank you for that. And just, man, I just want to wish you all the best and as you move forward with everything.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you all for taking the time out to listen. And I hope you all continue to listen and continue to subscribe to Christ Over Crypto, gain your knowledge and grow in finance as well. So thanks, brother. Thanks for all you're doing.